What's good, Raider Nation? As you guys know, the Oakland Raiders have cut Micheal Crabtree and signed Doug Martin and Jordy Nelson. So today what I want to do is I want to speak about Jordy Nelson and what he means for us, as well as cutting Micheal Crabtree and what that means for us. Now, Micheal Crabtree, I'm going to just make this quick and brief. I was not a fan of Micheal Crabtree, especially when the news came out that he quit that last game of the season. He was called out by Marquette King. A few other people wrote articles about it. And truth be told, he quit. And I'm a strong believer in if you quit once, you can quit again. Now, we cut Micheal Crabtree because he decided to sit himself out because he did not get the number of snaps that he wanted in Week 16 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, that led to some, drift between him and the offensive coordinator, and altercation happened, and he decided he was not going to play the rest of the game. Now, regardless of what happened and the fact that he quit on the team, I personally believe that within a locker room, there's a culture. And players like Micheal Crabtree, when you quit, you're setting the culture for some of the younger players that it's okay to quit when you have an altercation with the coach, and that should not ever happen. Now, moving on from Micheal Crabtree, I want to talk about Jordy Nelson, because essentially Jordy Nelson is replacing Micheal Crabtree. Now, at the same time, Jordy Nelson got a 2-year, $15 million deal, and if you guys knew the salary cap number, Micheal Crabtree was also being paid about $7.5 million. So 2 years divided by 15 obviously comes out to $7.5 million. Now, we don't know the final numbers on the contract, but I do believe that there's going to be a lot of incentives. I don't think it's going to hit our salary cap at 7.5 million. I think it'll hit us closer to like 5 or 6 million. Now, any reasonable Raider fan would ask, why would we sign Jordy Nelson? I mean, his statistics speak for themselves. I mean, look at this. In 2013 and 14, he had very good years. 14, a great year. He got hurt all of 15, came back 16, still had a good year. But in 2017, 482 yards. I mean, you can just look at this chart here and you can see that he's trending downwards ever since 2014. But let's put 2017 into perspective. Aaron Rodgers was hurt. I mean, the Green Bay Packers were a joke. They had no quarterback. So truthfully, in my opinion, it would be wrong to state that Jordy Nelson sucked. He's old and he's just not good anymore. But let's look at his games where Aaron Rodgers actually played. Aaron Rodgers played weeks 1 through 6. Now, Jordy Nelson, on the other hand, if you look at his numbers here, he was actually hurt week 2, so he didn't technically play week 2. He really only played 5 games with Aaron Rodgers. Well, let's look at his stats in those 5 games. Let's see what he did in those 5 games. So again, as you guys can see here, weeks 1, he had a fantastic game. 7 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown. In my opinion, that's a pretty damn good game. Week 3, 52 yards and 2 touchdowns. Again, that's a pretty good game too. Yeah, 2 touchdowns. Week 4, he had a fantastic game. Maybe a little bit more catches, but still 2 touchdowns and 75 yards. Week 5, he didn't play well. And then week 6, that was actually the week Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Now think about that. The 5 games with Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson had 25 catches, 290 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Now that's actually pretty good. If you normalize that for 16 games, let's say he played all 16 games with Aaron Rodgers, theoretically his statistics would have been 80 catches, 928 yards, and 19 touchdowns. That is what his statistics would have been had he played all 16 games. Now obviously, most likely this would not have been this number. Maybe he would have had 200 more yards, 5 less touchdowns. Nonetheless, he would have had a fantastic game. He had a good start to his season. Aaron Rodgers that went out, and it is what it is. Jordy Nelson is not 28 years old anymore. When the season starts, he'll be 33. But you know what? He was 32 this past season. So let's look at some of his statistics and let's watch some of his game film. You can tell that he's older, but he still runs really, really good routes, and he's very smart. Just look at this play here. There's something in this play that I want to point out to you guys that I would say 90% of receivers do not understand this part of the game. So as the play starts, Jordy Nelson's route is kind of just to sit in the zone coverage. So he's kind of just sitting there. But at this point, he realizes Aaron Rodgers rolling out. So Jordy Nelson understands he needs to get to the sideline. But he also understands there's a linebacker right on him. So what I want you guys to focus on is what he does to get that linebacker out of balance. Look at this slowly. He fakes that he's going to go upfield. The linebacker turns around. Watch this again. He goes upfield. The linebacker starts running upfield, and then he cuts back, and that gives him about 1.5 yards separation, and he's able to make the catch. I mean, that's beautiful. It does not get better than that. Those are the small things that you can't teach a wide receiver to do. You know, if a wide receiver is smart and intelligent enough to create space, these are the kind of things that that wide receiver does. You know, Darius Hayward-Bay reminds me of a receiver that we recently had in the last 10 years that he just did not know how to run routes. You know, aside from not using his hands to catch the ball, he just did not know how to run routes and get open. Now here is on the top of the screen. I think that's a very, very nice move. I'm going to show it to you guys again in slow motion. As the play begins, Jordy Nelson takes hard steps towards the inside. And what that does is that forces the cornerback to kind of chase him. And Jordy Nelson sets it up perfectly because he knows and he feels the cornerback being too close. And what he does is he uses his left arm and he swims over him. And the cornerback has his back turned to him because of the way Jordy Nelson runs his route. I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, it does not get better than that. That's such a fantastic way to run routes. Now, truth be told, Jordy Nelson was signed to replace Micheal Crabtree, and truth be told, Micheal Crabtree is probably a more talented wide receiver. He can probably do more. I think there's more to Micheal Crabtree than what we see. I personally felt, even when the Niners drafted him, that he has a poor attitude. And personally, I still feel like he does have a poor attitude. You know, we had locker room problems. Who knows if he wasn't one of the problems within that locker room? Obviously, we know Lynch and Cook and some of these other players came in, but who knows if Crabtree was also one of those players. Jordy Nelson is not a long-term solution. We're going to have to get another wide receiver soon. I know we signed that receiver from the Colts, but I think that guy's more of just a punt returner, kick returner, you know, whatever. But we also signed another player, Doug Martin. I personally didn't, you know, I hate to go against the Oakland Raiders signing players. You know, Doug Martin's, he's from Oakland, born and raised, and I don't hate the move because it's still a running back who has potential to be good. You know, he last year people say he had a disappointing year, but he missed the first 4 games. You know, he didn't play his first weeks 1 through 4, and the 4 games he came back, week 5, 6, 7, and 8, he actually played pretty well. You know, if you guys look at this chart, the blue is the yards and the green is the number of attempts. So you can see that when he was getting, like in week 5, 17, you know, 16, 17 attempts, he was doing pretty well. You know, 16 attempts, 74 yards week 5. You know, he played well. Week 8, 17 attempts, 71 yards. Week 9 was where he really fell off. He had 7 yards. I think he had like 6 attempts. But again, you know, when he had the attempts, he produced. And the Buccaneers are not a good running team, so it's not like it's 100% on Doug Martin. You know, he isn't the only reason why the Buccaneers sucked last year. Now, he did have 138 attempts for a total of 406 yards, which comes out to a pretty pathetic 2.94 yards per carry. I personally think Doug Martin was signed in essence that maybe the Oakland Raiders are going to cut Marshawn Lynch. Who knows? You know, I personally would not want to cut Marshawn Lynch, but I don't see why we would have 4 running backs on the active roster, that is, because Elijah Hood is also on the practice squad / you know, he's active sometimes depending on if someone's hurt, but we don't need 4 running backs, you know, because I personally think Rashard and Washington, those guys can bounce back. They're not bad running backs, so I don't really see the need of signing Martin. And it's a 1-year deal, so it's not like it's going to destroy us, but we're not focusing on the defense. You know, yeah, we re-signed Big Jelly, which I'm very, very happy we re-signed him. He's a fantastic player, but what I'm actually going to do now is I'm actually going to bring up our salary cap situation, and I'll talk about that a little bit because that's very important. All right, you guys, to talk a little bit about our salary cap, I've just taken what we're paying all our players and just put it into this nice little table. I need to make some real quick updates. Micheal Crabtree's gone. Been waiting to do this one. Put a 0 here. Our cap is gonna go up by that $7.7 million, 33 million. Keep in mind we're gonna pay Jordy Nelson. I'm gonna just estimate $6 million would be the cap hit. Oops, gotta put in $6 million. Doug Martin, I don't know what he's being paid. I know it's a 1-year deal. I'm gonna just estimate that it's going to be $3.5 million. And at the same time, I also know we've re-signed Lee Smith. I haven't seen the final numbers on that, but I'm gonna just put that at $2.5 million, which that's probably way more than what he's being paid. But just to be safe, that's what I'm going to put it at. Justin Ellis, I've already updated it. This is actually the legit number of what he's being paid. So again, right now, I'm going to estimate that we have about $21 million left. Now, if you go to like Over the Cap or SpotTrack.com, they have us at about $25.5 million, but that's not including cutting Micheal Crabtree and Doug Martin and Jordy Nelson's contracts. So with that said, we have about $21 million, and we need to focus on our defense. And we have not re-signed Navarro Bowman yet. Navarro Bowman is the most important player on our defense. I know Khalil Mack is the best, but Navarro Bowman gets everyone lined up correctly, and we need to lock him up. I don't care what it takes. We need him. You know, I don't want to draft a young linebacker to fill that role. I mean, I wouldn't mind it, don't get me wrong, but I would rather have Navarro Bowman be the middle solid player on our defense. With that said, there are still questionable players on our roster. Bruce Irvin is one of those players. You know, he's had some tweets, and you know, Mikey Raiders talked about it. He's shown it on his channel. You know, Bruce Irvin's had some tweets, and they're questionable. You know, he does some stupid stuff in my opinion. He has that Twitter beef, whatever people call it, with Marquette King. And truth be told, Bruce Irvin is an outside linebacker, and I know people might not agree with the concept of a punter being more important than an outside linebacker. But if you think about this, there are way more good outside linebackers that are just as good, or maybe a little bit worse than Bruce Irvin, but at a way better price. Like 8.25 million. That's a lot of money. And then on the other end, Marquette King, what he brings to the Oakland Raiders. Marquette King is arguably, you know, a top 3 punter. You know, you can give him the ball at our own 30-yard line on our side of the field, and he will punt the ball and get the other team within the 10-yard line. You know, I don't know about this last season on the top of my head, but the season before, he had the second most inside the 20 punts, and he had the most inside the 10 and inside the 5. Okay, so a punter, in my opinion, is very, very valuable. Field position is very, very valuable. Other people don't understand. Field position's a huge thing. That's why some kick returners and punt returners are special. They're special talents because I'll give you guys an example. The Patriots always have Julian Edelman return punts. Now, Julian Edelman is not going to burn anyone and, you know, run 70 yards and score a touchdown on a punt. But what Julian Edelman's going to do is he's going to pick up 10 to 15 yards on every single punt. And that's huge. To get 10 or 15 yards on a punt, that's absolutely huge. Now, in my opinion, I'm not saying, you know, we need to cut Bruce Irvin because of Marquette King. I'm just saying, you know, there's problems in this locker room and we need to get that fixed. You know, some of the things that have changed over the course of this past season was we re-signed Marshawn Lynch we signed Marshawn Lynch and we signed Jared Cook. No, I'm getting off topic, and we should be talking here about the free agency. Regardless, I think we need to fix our locker room. I think our new coach Gruden is going to be a huge step in fixing our locker room situation. And I honestly think that's why he cut Micheal Crabtree. I think he wants to set an example that we don't want quitters on our team, you know. And I think that's very, very important. Now, at the same time, Sean Smith, I wanted him. I felt like he was a good corner, but he made a mistake. Now, again, I'm all about due process. I know he had gotten into altercation. Yeah, he beat Mr. Woods up, but to the extent Sean Smith deserves to go to jail, you know. The story that I've read is Sean Smith not only fought this guy. I mean, I guess it's not really a fight because Sean Smith whooped his ass. But Sean Smith knocked him out, and then Sean Smith, and just for you guys out there, you can fight someone and not be charged. You know, you'll walk away if you fought someone for the reason of whatever Sean Smith did. The problem where he's getting that 1 year, sentence is the fact the guy was knocked out. He decided to start kicking that guy in the face. So he was kicking that guy as he was on the ground knocked out. And there were two witnesses. Both witnesses testified to that. Personally, I think a lot of people look at Sean Smith and say, he defended his sister. That's good. And I would say the same thing. He defended his sister. But at the same time, your sister dated this guy for 8 years. Um, and on top of that, you should not have kicked him in the face. That's where I believe Sean Smith messed up. And I get it. It's his sister. It's your family member. Everyone loves your family members. I know people do anything for their family members. So at the end of the day, that's something he should have thought about. But now he's facing the consequences. So regardless, back to the video. Um, Free agency. Donald Penn. I mean, $8.3 million. Now, if we cut him, we're going to save $5.3 million, right? So let's just say we cut him. I know we're not going to cut him, but let's just say we do, right? Let's say we cut him. We would be at $26 million. Now, that will give us enough room, theoretically, to, let's just say, pay Navarro Bowman $8.5 million. Now, I know people are going to say there's no way he's going to make $8.5 million. You'd be surprised what a future Hall of Famer might get. That would still leave us with 18 million to maybe get someone like Sue or maybe some other player that is out there. Regardless, there's a lot that we need to do on the defensive side of the ball. I really, really hope Reggie McKenzie doesn't take, the second, third, or fourth tier free agents. This is something that's important that he needs to focus on, and I hope he's able to get this done. With that, I'm going to end the video here. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions. What do you guys think about Jordy Nelson? What do you guys think about Doug Martin? What do you guys think about Justin Ellis? Should we repay Navarro Bowman? What if Bowman wants $12 million? Would you pay him that? So let me know your guys' opinions. Please like, share, and comment, and I will see you guys next time with the game film breakdown.